Woohoo!
Woohoo! I'm tweeting.
Surprise! We're back. Bama Brigade. We got a special bonus episode today. Obviously, Thursday we anticipated on that being our, last show before the game, but we decided collectively as a group that it'd be fun to do like a pre-game show, to get our last thoughts in, any changes in our predictions, hoping that Clack maybe changed his prediction, but here we are.
Zero shot.
Exactly what? 5 hours away from the game? Wait, math. Wait. Yeah.
5 hours, 10 minutes.
How you guys feeling? I gotta know.
Nervous.
Oh.
Where'd everybody go?
I think
You want to stop clicking things? Thanks. All right.
We added the extra countdown for dramatic effect. I was like, "How are you guys feeling?" And
yeah. Give us 30 seconds to process our feelings and stuff. So,
sidebar. I kind of like that countdown better than the other one.
But the other one's a minute long. It gives you more time to tweet out.
Yeah. Well, clearly Tyler wasn't ready, but
I was not ready. I'm a slow tweeter, but I'm a little nervous. I'm always nervous when it comes to big games and stuff like that. But I'm the type of person I get nervous when we're playing New Mexico State or something, not because I'm scared we're going to lose, but just because I want the game to be on, right? It's the anticipation. Yeah. I just want it to be here.
Yeah, I think for me, the nerves haven't really quite set in yet, and that was how the SEC championship was for me.
All right, bye, Clack.
Clack is taking a moment to collect his thoughts before he tells us that Georgia's going to win. Now, before the SEC championship, I literally was not nervous until probably a minute, 2 minutes before kickoff. That's when I started to get nervous. And then I stayed nervous until Bama scored a touchdown. So I think, Spencer says, y'all are the shit, love the show, watching on my way to watch the game from work. Awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man.
Yeah, that's why we're jumping on here, man.
Spencer's our best fan. We love Spencer.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
We appreciate Spencer, and we just thought we'd hop on here, to get a couple people in and talk some Bama football tonight as they close in on their 19th national championship. But like I was saying, it'll probably be similar for me tonight. I won't be nervous until kickoff. But yeah, I don't know. Nerve-wise, it hasn't set in yet, which is a little bit worrisome as well.
Yeah. I don't know. So I started at Home Depot this week, and the guy who was training me is a Georgia fan. So we've had some beef going on for a little bit.
My coworker, she's a Georgia fan, and last time we were both kind of for the SEC championship, we were both, poking back and forth, talking crap to each other. But this time she was like, I am not talking trash to you. And I was like, yeah, I probably won't either. And then I've just been talking trash because I can't help myself. And it was actually funny. So the people who live at the very end of my street, big Georgia fans, flags, all kinds of Georgia stuff. As I was putting up the Bama flag today, in my, putting it out, their car drives by with a little Georgia flag attached to it. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't think they saw me, but I waved down and pointed to the flag.
Shoot. So I got a couple of stats for y'all, right? I'm sure you saw at least one of these. I mean, I'm sure you saw at least two of these. So Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite. And I'm sure you guys saw the tweet that says that Alabama is a 5-0 as a single-digit underdog since 2008, and 3 of those 5 games are against Georgia. But it's also the 5th time that there's a rematch in the season of 2 top 5 teams, both being top 5. Yeah, all 4 of the teams that lost the first game went on to win the second one.
That's exactly.
And that goes I've said it all year. It's really hard to beat a top 5 team twice in the same season, right? Because you use your best stuff for the first game, and then they're able to use their best stuff for the second. So it's kind of like what's going to give first, right? Like Georgia not being able to beat Alabama, or like the AP teams not being able to beat each other twice.
I know that stats are stats, and most of the time they're correct. They're that way for a reason. But I think that stat about, teams losing the rematch is canceled out by the fact that we've literally beaten Georgia the last 7 times we've played them.
Well, but that's another thing that I think I can understand where
that's more of a mental
fan is coming from.
That's more of a mental block though than like playing a team again. Like I think it's more of a mental block for Georgia that we beat them 7 times than it would be for Alabama if they saw the stat that in the rematch the teams usually lose. Yeah.
But
you know what I mean?
I think that's one of those things like Nick Saban never losing to an assistant. Like the more times you play them, the more likely you are to lose to them, right? That's just statistics. That's just mathematics, especially a good team like Georgia. It's hard to go 7-0 against Georgia. It's even harder to go 8-0. That being said, I do think Alabama's going to win. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a certain somebody, but yeah. But I do think it's going to be a little bit less of a almost cakewalk, I guess, than the first game. I think it's going to be pretty
and I'm not one of those Bama fans, gumpsters, as Will Anderson referred to us as. That's going to sit here and tell you we're going to win this game by 15 points or even 10 points. I mean, my score prediction is 31-27. I think it'll be a closer game. I think, I've kept preaching, like Roman Harper said, like so many people have said, Bama has the advantage at coach. They have the advantage at quarterback. They have the best defensive player. They have the best receiver on the field. Like, we have so many more advantages. But if you sat around, I've had ESPN on all day in the background today, you would think that there's not even a reason for us to step out on the field. That everybody thinks Georgia's going to win. But that's exactly how it was the first time, so it doesn't really surprise me. I'm not too terribly bothered by it. I think it plays into the narrative that Bama's a quote-unquote underdog. I think the media keeps falling into that trap, and Bama. That's why they're using this as extra motivation, what did Nick Saban say? That yummy rat poison. They just put that. They didn't learn clearly because they're putting in that yummy rat poison right back out for everyone to see. It's I don't know. It's comical to me because I think a lot of people are also just kind of getting wrapped up in a lot of small things and not focusing on the big picture. And I'm not saying Georgia won't ever beat us, but until they beat us, I'm just going to go into this game thinking confidently that Alabama's going to win. So that's how I feel. I'm really interested though. I know Tyler and I are on the same page. Civilly, Clack, I want to hear just your reasoning behind this. About why you think Georgia's going to win.
I think because, one, the statistic of rematches, I mean, up until a couple of years ago, it was 90%. And 2, I think that...
Put that statistic aside. I just want to take that stat and let's throw it away. And I want, concrete, scheme, personnel-wise, why you think you're going to win.
I think that, our defense has been a bend-but-don't-break defense all year. Would y'all agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think a lot better recently, though.
Yeah, I think recently they've been an elite defense. I'll say it.
I agree. Other than the Arkansas game, which we could really kind of deep dive in it anyway. But I think that they've been a bend but don't break defense. But I think that they're going to give up points tonight. I think that. I'm not saying they're going to give up a lot of points because Georgia's offense is not that good. But, Brock Bowers is probably the best tight end in the game.
He's the best freshman in the league. I think he just won the freshman of the year.
Exactly. Brock Bowers is going to give us nightmares. Ladd McConkey's going to have a decent-ish game. And
Clark, you're telling me you're losing sleep over Ladd McConkey?
I'm not. Let me finish. And I think, what's been our weakest part of our defense has been our rushing game, our rushing defense.
We have one of the best rushing defenses in the country.
That's just factually incorrect.
Yeah,
we have the same yards per game as
Arkansas ran on us. LSU was able to run on us.
Yeah, yards per game, though, we give up the same rushing yards per
Florida?
game as Georgia does.
We literally won the LSU game because of our defense.
Well,
I mean, say what you will about how bad of a team LSU was, but that's why we won that game. Our defense has been
I
stout.
just think they're going to do just enough on offense to be able to to win the game. I mean, they look at the game against Michigan last week. I mean, that's exactly how that. Well, I mean, they dominated Michigan. I mean, that's how they won the game. The defense got stops, and the offense scored in 10, 12 plays and won the game.
We've seen that all year for Georgia against teams that are not Alabama. Like, I don't put much stock in the fact that they blew out Iowa and they blew out Michigan. Yeah, they do really well against Big Ten teams. Surprised, because Big Ten teams, most of them, aside from Ohio State, can't throw the ball worth a damn. They're just going to line up and try and run the ball, and that's what Georgia's really good at, stopping the run. It's not like Michigan had this very high potent passing offense like Alabama does. So
yeah,
I just don't understand.
Not great.
Yeah, Cade McNamara is not Bryce Young. And then, like I've talked about on Spaces and just in general, Georgia's points that they scored in that game, a lot of them came off of the big plays. And Alabama has been susceptible this year to give up big plays, but still, most of them were like Stetson Bennett throwing a
50-50 to George.
Yeah,
Pickens.
a 50-50 ball, and the corner undercuts.
Yeah, I like this Georgia defense is not like this Georgia defense is still the best defense in the country.
But I disagree. Dropped like 30-something on this exact Georgia defense.
Was the first game. They've seen this offense. They know this offense now.
I know, and we've seen their defense. You're saying like the reason why everybody thinks they're going to win is like, okay, well now we know what Alabama does. People forget that Alabama also is going to adjust some things. You think Brock Bowers is just going to run free and have a breakout game again? No. They're going to take what they saw.
I think he might. Linebackers are not great coverage linebackers.
No, I think he could. I'm just saying, just like Georgia will have adjustments for Alabama, Alabama will have adjustments for Georgia. And, I mean, it's going to take a lot of adjustments for Georgia to make up from
but you also got to remember, we're also missing a key piece from the last game against Georgia. We're missing a key piece from that win.
John Mechie?
I think Mechie, obviously you can't replace his production. He's a phenomenal receiver. But I think that if you give Bryce Young enough time to throw the ball, the offensive line's the key, right? If offensive line comes out flat, it's going to be a long game. We might have some big plays on offense, but if offensive line, I'm not asking them to play as well as they did last game, but if they play like average or just a little bit above average, we'll be fine, because Bryce is that guy. I mean, he's a Heisman quarterback. He's going to find somebody who's open. And then the loss of Mechie is huge, but it's a next man up mentality, especially at Alabama. How many times in the Tua game, second 26, we see legends are born in these big spotlights, and this is a time for Ja'Cory Brooks and all these other guys to step up. I mean, Ja'Cory Brooks had a pretty good last game against two of the best corners in the country. I think he's going to feast today, and I think we'll be all right. Someone don't pick up that Mechie production.
I agree. I think that if the offensive line blocks good enough, I think we should be okay. But do we really trust the offensive line?
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to say.
That's a counterpoint, yeah.
They played well in the first game, but obviously there's some injuries that happened last game. I know that they said they were trending towards playing Emil Ikior. And I think Chris Owens also got hurt, right? And so they had to rely on J.C. Latham playing last game, which is that's a great problem to have, the number one tackle in the nation, recruit. But also Georgia's supposedly, you can't take anything they say at face value, but they were talking all week about bringing a lot more pressure. And one of the hardest things I think for young offensive linemen is communication, knowing who you're supposed to pick up and when. And that's the one thing that scares me is they might have a lot of and you saw that all year with Bama as the line was gelling, teams that blitzed a lot got a lot of pressure because they would miss a stunt or they would miss an extra linebacker or something.
For as much crap as we give, as much shit we give to the offensive line, it's the right side. I mean, we forget that we have Evan Neal, who is the best offensive tackle in the country, who's going to go probably, he could go number one.
Yeah, he's
if top three. We forget when we say our offensive line's bad, we have Evan Neal. We have players on our line that are are phenomenal guys. I lost my train of thought because Joey's messaging in here. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Alabama's offensive line. And Georgia, I think, is tipping their hat a little bit by saying, "Oh, we're going to blitz. We're going to put pressure on Bryce Young." Well, Alabama, you would think. I mean, Bill O'Brien is a bit of a boob, for lack of better words. But you would think they're going to be like, okay, if they're going to blitz us and they're going to bring pressure, that's going to leave somebody open. And that also leaves the door open for a lot of running back screens and, stuff of that nature. So I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm not worried because it's Alabama. And, we're used to these things. And if we barely beat them the first game, yeah, I'd be more nervous. But I'm not expecting us to blow them out in the second game. But the fact that we beat them by as much as we did in the first game, I think it's ridiculous that we wouldn't be favored in this game. The media is just, spinning their little web of nonsense. And I think a lot of people like Clack are falling in that trap.
No, I just think that they have – I think that their defense is going to be good enough to get the win.
So Spencer said, did you see the build and tape for the walk-on running back for Bama that's dressed out for this game? I did not, but
I saw him. It looked like Najee, and nobody could figure out who it was. I can't still remember his name, but he was a big running back. Also, we're talking about running backs that aren't Brian Robinson Jr. You got to think that this team benefits from the fact that they have Jahmyr Gibbs running the scout team. He's very similar to James Cook, running back. I think those guys are very similar. And also our offense is going up against Eli Ricks. So I think people will be surprised and people aren't talking about how much that benefits us. Obviously, neither one of those guys are going to be on the field for us offensively or defensively, but it really helps our team prepare for Georgia playing the national championship when we're going up against guys of that caliber of talent.
His name is Elijah Crockett, apparently.
Elijah Crockett, yeah.
Yeah.
Not Elijah Vera Tucker, inside joke, but Tyler's talking about.
So I did want to ask a couple of key points about this game because we could, we could say Alabama's going to win and then Clack could bark at us for the rest of eternity. But I want to hit on a couple of key points. So first off, speaking of running backs, how do you guys think that Brian Robinson's going to do this game? I know he only had 30 yards rushing the last game, 30 or 40. But he's coming off a career high, 220 or something like that against Cincinnati. So how do you think he does this game?
I personally think that he's not going to go off. I don't think he'll have as many yards as he had, but I would probably safely say 18 carries for 80 yards and a touchdown, I think is realistic for him. But I also think that's not something a lot of people are talking about, was the fact that, Georgia might have been sick and, who knows if that's true. But nobody really talked about the fact that Brian Robinson Jr. wasn't 100% for that game. I think having him back 100% is huge for Alabama. And a guy like Brian Robinson, who's from Tuscaloosa, who's been on this team for a while, he's seen a lot of stuff. He's got a lot of experience. And in these big games, experiences matters a lot. And so, we've got a sophomore quarterback who's young, but the fact that we have a true senior running back that's been there a while and knows how these type of games go, I think also plays in our favor. I mean, these are all things that I haven't heard anybody talk about except for Bama fans. And that just baffles me because they're important things. Experience is important for games like this, especially at a position like running back when, if this is going to be a close game, Bama's going to need, a 15-yard run in the fourth quarter or something, a breakaway run with B-Rob. And I don't know. I mean, it blows my mind. There's a lot of things that are kind of falling by the wayside because of narratives that are being spun about this game.
Yeah, I mean, last game, when they needed to run out the clock and stuff, a lot of the clutch runs are actually Trey Sanders because I know B-Rob was, like you said, banged up. That wasn't even something I was thinking about, to be honest. I kind of forgot that he was hobbled the last game against them. Yeah,
and people aren't talking about it because, I mean, you know how I feel. It pisses me off that it's not really a fair – I mean, it's not supposed to be fair, but I just think the media is so in favor of Georgia. But also at the same time, it's kind of right where you want to be in my mind. But, yeah, I mean, I literally am looking it up right now. last game, B-Rob had 16 carries for 55 yards. So nothing crazy, but presumably a B-Rob at 100% would probably have close to 100 yards, maybe with a little, 6 more carries or something like that. But it's a Georgia defense that you're going to have to wear down, and I expect a big run or two in the fourth quarter from a guy like B-Rob. Hoping for it too. Wishful thinking.
Yeah. So then we kind of talked about it earlier. How do you guys think the O-line is going to hold up in the rematch? They played their butts off, probably the best game of the season for them in the SEC championship game. But do you think they'll have similar success? Do you think they're going to perform worse? Do you think they're going to perform like a lot worse?
I mean, it's a lot. I honestly don't even know what to say to that. I mean, I think the whole game rests on that, though. Because if the O-line plays good, the receivers are good. Somebody's gonna get open, or Bryce is gonna run, or somebody's gonna do something. If the O-line does their job, that's the key to the game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's your biggest worry, right? So throwing out stats, like that's your biggest worry is offensive line, right?
Yes.
Okay, and I agree, and I'm sure Tyler would agree too, and that's probably the most focal point for Alabama, and I'm sure they've worked out this week. But I don't know if that alone gives you a valid reason for just straight up picking Georgia.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's kind of like a meme on the Bama like Twitter sphere about like Auburn sacking Bryce Young 7 times, but their D line dominating almost won them the game, and Georgia's a lot better than Auburn. So I think it's a very valid reason to pick Georgia. I think if you think that their D line and their linebackers are going to get to Bryce Young, like ultimately,
I also think their offense is going to do enough. I think their offense is going to do decent.
I think in all phases of the game we're better than them. I think we have a better defense all around than they do. They're very good at stopping the run, but we see what happens to them when they have to defend the pass. I mean, we aren't necessarily the best team in the country about defending the pass either, but I think we're a lot better than Georgia, and we have a better offense. Georgia has no edge in any way, so I don't understand where this is coming from. And it's people that are saying, "Oh, they have more talent." They don't really have more talent. They have more experienced talent. But I think overall, Bama has better athletes.
Yeah, Spencer said, which receiver do y'all think will be running the slant routes? Sadly, Spencer, with Bill O'Brien, I don't think any receiver is going to be running the slant routes, unfortunately.
You know who's going to run the slant routes? Who they should run the slant routes? Jaleel Billingsley.
Jaleel Billingsley? Well, I was going to say...
This is the game. Jaleel Billingsley, I'm so counting on him. I said Trey Sanders could be... Man. I said Trey Sanders could be an X factor, but I've been saying for the last 3 weeks that Jaleel Billingsley is going to have a breakout game, and he'll have like one pretty solid clutch catch for like 15 yards, but that's it. They really, really need him this week.
Honestly, I don't hate Jamison Williams being a slant boy this game too, just because you look at like the Tua-led Bama, what did they do? They sent like Ruggs and Waddle on slant routes, and then as soon as they catch it, they're just faster than everyone and get like 30, 40 yards.
I would not put Jameson Williams on the outside because I think you're doing yourself a disservice. But I think if you put him inside, in the slot running routes, you need to find ways to get him the ball. It's not about throwing him the ball 50 yards deep bomb. Like that's nice, obviously. Yeah. But it's about running these slants with him, getting the ball in his hands, and he's so electric, so fast with the ball. That's where you're going to get your breakaway runs for a bunch of yards. They need to force feed him the ball. Not in obvious ways, but they need to schematically, find packages, like a bunch of package with all these receivers, which is what they usually run. And I think they need to do that. And I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that Bill O'Brien doesn't just have his head up his ass the whole game, which we've seen before. And Spencer brought up a good point. JoJo Earl. I'm not expecting, too much from JoJo Earl, but I do think he'd be a nice change of pace. And then Christian Leary, we've seen him as well. I mean, they have all these 5-star, 4-star receivers. So
yeah, if
we lose this game, I'm not going to be one of those people that uses the excuse, well, we didn't have Metchie. Yeah, probably could have changed the course of the game, but if we lose the game, it won't be because of that.
Let me ask you this: if we lose the game, what will it be because of, in your opinion?
Offensive line play and refusal to change the game plan and get creative for Bill O'Brien, which are two very real things that we've seen this year. So that's the only thing that makes me nervous is Bill O'Brien just, either not dialing up any, exotic plays or just like being too obvious. Like 3rd and 1, everyone in the building knows you're going to run up the middle on Georgia's style defense, and you do that. That's going to piss me off.
And it's
there's no reason for that. Like, and I think what you're about to say too, it's the last game of the season. Whatever tricks you got up your sleeve, you got to put them all out there.
Exactly. Like last week, the play calling was kind of uninspiring, but that's because after the second touchdown, Alabama had won the game. I mean, if you look at the points scored after the first touchdown, they won the game. Obviously, you can't bank on one touchdown winning you the game, but after the second touchdown, the game was pretty much over. There was no point in calling all your fancy plays and stuff when you're getting 7-8 yards a carry.
Yeah,
but that's not going to be this week.
That gives me hope too, as well, because it makes me think they've got some stuff planned.
Yeah, so actually we brought up JoJo Earl, and I wanted to ask you guys, do you think JoJo Earl is the punt returner again? Do you think it goes to Slade after the muff punt last week? Because I know they were rotating both of them. I do not like Slade as a punt returner. He's been clutch as a receiver. I think his longest punt return of the season has been 5 or 6 yards or something. I mean, I'm sure it's been longer, but in my head,
I would have JoJo Earl do punts. I know he had that issue last week, but I think that I'm sure they've been practicing and really honing in on punts for him and making sure he doesn't screw up. And I think you're going to need Slade Bolden a lot more in the receiving game. Obviously, it'd be nice to get JoJo Earl out there, but a guy like Slade Bolden, you're going to kind of need to count on him to have a couple big catches.
JoJo Earl, I mean, seemingly is Nick Saban's favorite of the freshman receivers. He was the first one to work his way into the rotation earlier in the year. And then last week, too, he was getting play time as a receiver. He didn't get that many targets, but I mean, him and then Ja'Cory Brooks probably got more playing time, but that's because he was filling in for a different role. So Saban obviously likes JoJo Earl. So I think that,
I'd love to see him both get a lot of action today because, like I said earlier, we're going to need some of these new guys, these new heroes that we can talk about, for the next couple of years, the new crop of guys. And we definitely have all the talent in the world at that position. So it shouldn't be an excuse if we can't get the job done receiving.
Yeah. One guy I kind of want to see next year that I'm excited for is Kamar Wheaton. I know he's not going to play this year, but he was super hyped up. He was the number 1 running back in the class, wasn't he? And he'll probably be the 2 or 3 next year, depending on how well he heals. But he'll be a pretty interesting wrinkle. That was just something looking forward to the future. And we have some pretty cool named receivers coming in. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but we have a very solid named recruiting class coming in next year. So do you guys think that Bill O'Brien will be able to adapt to a likely different defensive scheme this week? Because last time against Georgia, their game plan was pretty much Bryce, go do your thing. And Bryce said, okay, I got you, Bob. When there was one set of footsteps in the sand, that was when Bryce Young carried us. So do you guys think that Bill O'Brien will be able to play call well enough to adapt to a different scheme?
Well, I think Georgia's going to. I think it's going to be about Georgia's going to do a lot more blitzing they do, and force Bryce trying to get rid of the ball. It's going to be how, we get if
quick slants.
Yeah, I agree. Quick slants and screen passes.
Dude, I'm fine with blitzing because it's if Georgia, like I said, is going to tell everybody in the world they're going to blitz this week and they're going to emphasis on getting pressure on Bryce Young. When you blitz someone, it takes a spot away from someone else on the field. So the fact that they're going to blitz us like crazy, I kind of feel a little bit good about that as long as the offensive line holds up, because that's kind of a desperation thing for them. They're basically saying, hey, we can't bring our normal amount of guys and get pressure on Bryce. He's going to pick us apart. So we're going to pull guys from other parts of the field and risk, Bryce still picking us apart. And I just don't think that's a good recipe for success for them. And the fact that they've been so adamant about telling everybody this week they're going to do it is the weirdest shit ever to me.
Yeah, that does seem like kind of a huge bait. I don't know, like other way to phrase it, but why would you go and tell everyone,
Because they're desperate. That's really what it is. They know that they're gonna have to put pressure on Bryce, and they're willing to take the risk of putting pressure and leaving somebody else open. I think that's ridiculous. But
also, Spencer said we're not talking about the special team advantage. Well, actually, like I got to go to, really cool experience. I got to go to the head coaches meeting, and someone brought up the special teams advantage, and Kirby Smart pointed out like we recruited their kicker, they recruited our kicker, so like obviously both teams have very solid kickers. Like, both teams. I mean, punting's about even. I don't know. Jamison Williams a great kick returner, but if you kick it out of bounds, he can't really do anything. So I don't think we have a huge special teams advantage.
But
I think
there's no area to the game that Georgia has the advantage at.
Yeah, I wouldn't say Georgia has the advantage either. I think it's
defensive line.
Yes. Pat, like run stopping, I think.
Phil Mathis has better stats than Jordan Davis.
Phil Mathis also plays a lot more because he has a lot better conditioning.
I would take Phil Mathis and DJ Dale over Jordan Davis, and I don't even know who their other defensive line is.
Did you guys see that tweet that like Jordan Davis was like, oh yeah, we were a little gassed last time, so I'm gonna run a little bit extra this week. Yeah, it's like 1 week of running is not gonna get you in shape for this game.
I was in that press conference, and he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go for a run after this, and people were like,
everyone was okay, like, save your legs.
Yeah, don't gas yourself too quick.
Do you think Bama or Georgia will use the jumbo package versus the defensive player? I think Georgia, if they're on the goal line, they'd like to use Jordan Davis a little bit, right?
I would love to see Bama do that with Will Anderson.
I mean, they used to with
Deron Payne.
Deron Payne. And then I was also thinking last year we had the linebacker that we moved to fullback. I can't remember his name.
I know what you're talking about. The guy that was there for a while.
Yeah, wasn't it?
Clark.
He went to like Colorado, right? I think.
I don't know.
What am I thinking of? All right, anyway, whatever. You get the point. So, do you guys think that Alabama's defense will remain on fire? I know, Clack, you kind of said it earlier. You think that Georgia's offense will do just enough. So, let me hear your thoughts on that.
I think Zamir White and James Cook are going to have better days than they did last time. I think it's going to kind of be like that Florida game where the running game actually kind of hurt us a little bit. I don't think Stetson Bennett can do that much, but I mean, at the same time, Stetson Bennett's got Brock Bowers, and I think Brock Bowers is going to give Pete Golding headaches, and I think it's just going to be enough for their defense. The offense is going to do just enough for their defense, just to be able to hold us off and win.
Well, we talked about Georgia saying they're going to put pressure on Bryce Young. Alabama didn't do. I mean, they got some interceptions on Stetson Bennett, but they didn't do a very great job of bringing pressure and getting to him. That's not like we had a bunch of sacks. I think Tyler said it. We had like 2 or something. So Bama needs to pin their ears back, and they need to get pressure on him, because I think if they can get pressure on him and force him to throw it too early, I mean, he's one of those guys that you're likely is going to force a throw, and that's where you get like a pick six or something, or a fumble, a sack fumble that could be the difference in this game. That'll probably be close. So we also need to find a way to get pressure without giving up, big plays for Brock Bowers or Lad McConkey or Darnell Washington or somebody.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wrote it down later when I was in the Georgia section, but Stetson Bennett, I don't sue me if these are completely wrong, but I believe I saw he was 13-1 as a starter against non-Alabama teams and 0-3 as a starter against Alabama. Like, I get it, Alabama's hard to beat, but also he's just not really like the same quarterback against Alabama. Oh, it was Ali Cahoe. So I looked up the 2019 roster to find this. That's why I was typing. But I just Stetson Bennett has not looked great. He makes a couple of boneheaded plays against Alabama every time, seemingly. Like he realistically should have had 2 pick sixes last game. Jordan Battle dropped one of them, but then he got the second. I don't know. I think that the second half of the year, like you said, minus the Arkansas game, Alabama's defense has been really good. And I don't, unless James Cook abuses our linebackers, right? Like, that's the biggest thing I'm worried about personally. Is Christian Harris is athletic, but he does not have great coverage skills. You would think he would, but he is very bad at tracking the ball. And like what was it? Not the last time we played Georgia, but the time before, I know that they ran like a wheel route like twice, and James Cook got 2 touchdowns on Christian Harris or something like that. So that kind of worries me a little bit.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Our linebackers are really athletic, Christian Harris and Henry To'oTo'o, but they're not all that great covering. So I agree. Georgia with their running backs is probably going to do a lot of wheel routes and stuff and test Alabama's linebackers. But these are all things that I think Alabama has obviously been practicing for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like any of this should catch anybody by surprise.
Jahmyr Gibbs is huge because, like you're saying, he's a great like James Cook clone in practice. And I heard he was actually playing like good on good. He was playing against the starting defense with the starting offense when he was out there because he's such a good, he's as good as Brian Robinson's been, and he's been one of our stars this year. He's been absolutely rock solid. He doesn't really fit the mold of any of the Georgia running backs as well. So I understand why they put Gibbs in as, because he's a little bit shiftier, a little bit more of a receiving threat. And so I like that. And then finally on the Bama side of things, I was wondering, do you guys think that the passing game will be anywhere near as potent without John Mechie? Because last time we were really good in the first half. We were still pretty good in the second half, but once Mechie went down, it definitely slowed down a little bit. So do you think that was just because you had to replace a starter mid-game and with the extra practice it'll be more smooth? Or do you think losing John Mechie is going to be that impactful?
I think it was replacing a guy obviously those other guys are ready to step up, but Jamison Williams and Mechie are getting the bulk of the reps in practice. But now, obviously, that Mechie's not going to play, so those guys are been conditioned and know that they're going to get a lot more reps and a lot more game time action in this game.
Yeah, I think you've had time to practice. I think that's going to help, and that I think it's going to hurt us. But I think that we've also had plenty of time to practice and get JaCoy Brooks and guys like that ready to go in his position.
Okay, so a couple of other things that I wanted to ask about. This is more on the Georgia side of things. So this is for Clack, our resident Georgia fan. The D-line was reportedly, they had a stomach flu or whatever they said last time. Whether or not that's true, that's up to you, but that's what we're going with. They said it. So no one ever lies in press conferences. So
never.
Do you think they're going to be less gassed this week if Alabama tries to run tempo, or do you think it's going to be that was all just talk and Jordan Davis is still going to come out after 2 plays every time?
I think it's kind of a. I think we could if the offensive line is able to. If the offensive line is able to block, I think that opens up so much, and I think that we would be able to gas them like we did last time. And I think that if we can come out playing like we did in the second and third quarters last week or last game, goodness, then I think we will be able to gas them and win it now. But it all comes back to if the offensive line blocks. If the offensive line blocks, that closes all of those doors. But I do think that the offensive line can get it done, but I don't know if they will. I think that's the key to the whole game.
$1 million question, yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you guys didn't have anything else left, we could give our. I said my score prediction earlier, but give our score predictions and then, start biting our nails for kickoff.
Yeah. Do you know what the score of the last game was? This is just me asking.
41-24.
41-20. Okay. Because I was thinking 31-24 this week, but I didn't want to choose I remember it was something one, and I didn't want to have the same score.
Well, we beat them. We beat them the last 2 times by the exact same score. So. Yeah,
I think 31-24. I think their defense will come out and play a little bit, but I think that Alabama is almost a walking 30 points a game. What was it? Auburn and LSU were the only 2 in the last 3 seasons or something like that they didn't score more than 30 points. So
yeah,
I think Alabama wins more narrowly this time, but I think that the monkey on Georgia's back is very hard to get off, and I don't think they will this time.
I tipped my tipped my hand earlier when I said it would be 31-27. I'm still sticking by that.
All right, Clap.
I I think the Georgia defense steps up to the challenge. I think the Georgia offense, like I said, I think Georgia offense does enough. 27-17 Georgia.
Wow.
Interesting.
So clearly nothing we've said has resonated with you.
No, you can't expect the man to change his opinion after.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be like, you look at guys like, I'm trying to think of like Herb Street and these guys. They don't. I mean, they pick who they think is going to win the game. You can't pick somebody because they're your team. And I think, unfortunately, tonight it's not our night.
No, I 100% agree. I would never pick someone just because it's my team. I'm pretty realistic as well, and I honestly believe that Alabama is gonna. As for as much crap as I give you, I honestly believe in Alabama. It's not like the fan in me picking them.
I hope you're right. I think Kirby. I think Georgia's out for blood. I mean, granted, this is Alabama. This is not a team that you're just going to come in and, and embarrass
you don't surprise them.
Right. But Kirby's tired of hearing this. I will say that here's the one thing about Georgia, and I may eat my words on this. Here's the good thing about Georgia. Here's the good and bad thing about Georgia. The good thing is that Kirby Smart is their coach.
Mm-hmm.
Kirby Smart has a way of getting in his own head and making stupid mistakes, like the 4th and 11 punt, stuff like that. Kirby gets a little too ahead of himself sometimes and makes stupid mistakes. The fact that Kirby Smart is their coach is a good thing for us, but it's also a bad thing because Kirby Smart's one of the best defensive minds in football.
He's one of the best coaches. I mean, like as much as people like to make fun of him, and like especially because he's a Nick Saban assistant, you don't get to the playoffs or the national championships as often as he does without being a good coach.
So I mean, I do. I mean, Kirby Smart. I mean, but in a way, we know Kirby Smart can be Kirby dumb sometimes. I mean, so let's hope he goes Kirby dumb tonight and gets the big head and does something stupid and we capitalize.
All right. Well, I mean, I think that's all we wanted to talk about today. So thanks. Special shout out to Spencer. Thanks for always being here and always interacting. And thanks to everyone else that was watching. And Clack, you want to do some barking real quick for your Georgia fans?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. We'll see.
Cool.
We'll see y'all on Thursday.
We'll see who's right.
We'll be back rolling with the Tide Thursday at 6 p.m. Central. We're doing Central because that's a superior time zone. And then we'll be back with Bama Brigade 7 Central. So we'll see you guys then.